BJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guests here, Phillip Millman and Berlin. Steve and I are talking about a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts, especially me, because Gumbo headquarters, Maison de Gumbo, is moving, so I'm going to have to get rid of some games. The dreaded culling of the collection, Phillip, and you have some experience with that, right?
Not as much as my wife says I should.
All right, Chat Krewe, talk about the agony, but the necessity for most of us, unless your name is Mr. Sean, of getting rid, because Sean apparently does not get rid of games. He just keeps building bigger and bigger houses. But,
yeah, I have a buddy, Simon. So one of the things that I do in the board gaming world, outside of being a board game champion, three-time, is I'm also an admin to one of the largest board game groups in Facebook called the Board Game Group, which is, you can see that there. And it's a very good group. I'm one of the moderators, but one of the other moderators of it is Simon Muncy, who he basically lives in one house and has another house where he keeps all his games. So I keep saying that he'll never ever get a good. But look, there's so much space, and I think one of the things that I had to come to terms with is that as a gamer, my taste changed over time. Mm-hmm. So I started out, Ogre, which it was a callback to the game I played commuting into high school and then in the early 1980s.
An economic efficiency game?
Well, no, it was Ogre. It was the Steve Jackson game. Which,
an actual game. I thought
an
you were
actual Ogre.
No.
Okay. No. But there was a buddy of mine who it took us an hour and a half to get to high school because we commuted to this Science and Math.
I thought that was the game.
Yeah, well, sometimes it was. Sometimes it was. Yeah, sometimes it absolutely was. If you've ever heard the game Mornington Crescent, it was kind of like that, except the New York version. Mm-hmm. That's a real callback that nobody's going to get.
Yeah, I don't know that
one. Anyway, so we would play Ogre, and then when I got back into board gaming, it was Ogre, it was Zombicide, it was a silly little game, How to Serve Man, which is sort of a worker placement resource game where you're cooking humans, which is always a good thing. And then as I got more and more into gaming, I started playing games like Lewis and Clark. I started playing games like Shakespeare, which have a lot more meat to them. And then I heard about some of these heavier games. At first, I was like, 18xx, who the hell would want to play a railroad game? And then I found myself playing, Lisboa, Gallerist, 1830, Age of Steam, Yokohama, which isn't that heavy, but and then all these really heavy games are not there yet. But then I have all these older games that I'm not going to play anymore. So I sold my entire Zombicide collection to people who live in the neighborhood at a discount. They're games that I also know that I'll never see that'll never hit the table. So one game that I personally like a lot, but I don't know how I'm going to get it to the table, is An Infamous Traffic by Cole Worley. Now, the theme of the game is not a pleasant one. You are playing a British drug lord trying to push opium into China. Okay? I mean, that's the theme. And it's historically accurate. It's, and it's meant to, cause some of these conversations, but it's a really, really good game. And right now I could sell it at a pretty good clip because it's out of print and there are people who still want it. I really love the game, but I know it's not going to get to the table. So do I make that culling decision?
Are you a collector or a game player? That's the question.
See, the thing is, I'm probably both. And that's, but I
think one of the first things you have to decide is space. Steve and I always talk about, Steve, where you live, you have a defined space, and that's the amount of board games. So people in the chat crew, they probably, for some of them, they've got a dedicated board gaming space. And at that point, it's one in, one out, right?
Right.
So, I just got rid of but I've also been getting better at getting rid of games quicker. So for instance, I happen to love Scythe. I happen to love Viticulture. I love those two Jamie Stegmaier games. And so I went and I got Tapestry and played it twice. I'm like, this is not for me. And I sold it. Well, actually, I traded it for something I was looking for, but just I got rid of that. I recently got rid of, my entire Android Netrunner series because I'm never going to play that again. And and I got rid of a whole and a couple of smaller games for 1889 because I really want to play 1889. Again, I'm becoming a huge train nerd.
Philip's bringing up a good point. So Oscar Valero, the Valero boys, if you ever seen him on Facebook, Oscar's a huge trader. If you're on the board game trading, you've seen Oscar's post. And what I like about Oscar that I just don't do well is he gets the games, plays them, and doesn't fall in love with them. He gets rid of them. He sells them whenever they're top dollar, like Aquatica, it was super hot and he sold it to me, right? Now, if I tried to sell it, it wouldn't be worth as much. So that there's almost an art to not falling in love with board games if you're going to want to cycle through as many of the hotness as you can. And that's not for everybody,
Right.
No.
I mean, look, I get it. There's price and demand. I mean, having had a career in Wall Street, I understand those dynamics. But you can't always time those markets correctly. And sometimes you take a bath and you have to be willing to take that bath to make the big numbers. But but what I will do is, what I'm starting to do is, after I've played a game 2 or 3 times, I'll know pretty quickly to get rid of it. And so once you've made the decision to sell it, the next question, and this is to Nicholas's question on the chat, what's the best way to sell games? And that's a tough one.
All right, give me your best tip. What's your best tip? How do you get rid of your games?
So I'll give you the hierarchy of how I like to do it. And number one, you can't
Chris says bury yourself in board games. And Chris, you're not late, by the way. We talked about asking for troubles. We reminded everybody it's coming out. So.
We did.
So what's the hierarchy?
What the best way to do it is, if there's any local sales, so in the Washington D.C. areas, there's the Congress of Gamers and they put on an event, a 2-day event every quarter. And so what they'll do is, for $5, you can put your games there, and then you have prices, and people can either buy them or not, and that way you don't have to worry about shipping, and it's very simple, and that's the easiest.
Yes.
In COVID-19 pandemic times, you can't do that. So what I do is, there's a couple ways I sell it. First is, the board game group also has a group dedicated to selling board games. That's pretty active. So the TBG, buy, sell, and trade. Right. That's first. The second I'll do is, I'm in a bunch of Slack groups. I will post, hey, I got these games, anybody want? And then when that doesn't work, I try to do it through BGG, either through an auction or, now BGG, they can't really enforce it, but basically they want 3% for each of the sales, and that helps to keep their servers running. And that's, I'm happy to see that. And that's totally fine. The real issue is the shipping. I mean, shipping is very expensive unless you're like BJ and you run a multi-million-dollar company and you have certain deals with UPS or FedEx or something.
Sure. That is not active. Steve, you're active in the trading game, right?
I am, and Philip's right. Higher ed is where all the money's at. Yeah. So I am not.
As the son of a professor, I know.
I am completely concerned with shipping, because I will probably end up trading more than I sell, because I know that the money is going to go right back into a game anyway, most likely. The truth of the matter, if I'm going to be honest with you, and I think being honest with yourself is an important part of what Philip's talking about here. Am I going to play this game again? If not, have I grown out of it? Could somebody else enjoy this game like I used to enjoy this game? If so, it's got a new home someplace, and it should move there.
And the other thing, this is something I try to stress, and one of the things that I really find funny is like, oh, well, I'm not getting the value for the game. No, you've already gotten the value in the game.
Yes.
So, for instance, Zombicide, right? And I had all the original stuff, and I have the miniatures that are Labyrinth does, but they're not doing it this year. And they also do it on a Saturday, which is a problem for me. But and I had miniatures that are that there's huge demand for, like $50 for the little miniatures for specific ones, and I sold my entire set first of all, they were people in my community. They live less than a mile from my house. I've been to their house, and I knew their kids would love it. But I've also played that game probably close to 50 to 60 hours.
Right.
So, if you put a value on your game playing, like $10 an hour, or, how much is it to go see a movie? $8 an hour, right? Because a 2-hour movie costs you 16 to 20 bucks. I've already gotten my value. And so I'm getting some money back, sure.
Right.
But for me, it's not and this is for me, and maybe it's different for other people, but for me, it's, if I've already reached the value for that game, whatever I sell just helps me get value in another game. And that's why I actually, I'm very clear. It's not a shelf of shame if you haven't played a game. It's a shelf of opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to learn something, to play it, to see if you like it. And if you don't like it, that's great. Sell it and move on.
Yeah.
Dylan says thinking that games want to be played keeps his collection small. That's a point that you just mentioned, Steve. Maybe somebody else has that. What about you, Berla? Can you let go of your games? Are you there yet?
I can, and I have been. I actually just was texting with my brother this morning asking if he wanted a copy of the game that he was like, I thought you loved that game. Why are you getting rid of it? I was like, well, I know you like it. And for me, it just doesn't spark joy. Like, there's so many other things I'd rather be playing.
Yeah.
And I've also gotten smart, and I've got a friend that is totally on top of all the hotness and buys everything. Got a couple friends like that, actually. So I wait, and they want someone to play with anyways, so I play it with them and then decide if I need to own it or not myself. And that's kept my collection
you can always pawn it off. You can always pawn it off on your mom. I mean, you just mentioned a game.
Well, that works too.
He gets excited.
I wish my mom played board games.
You still have access to it if it goes onto Kelly's.
Chris,
exactly.
Yeah.
Chris is not a seller. Hey, I'm like Nick. I actually have been, for 6 months, I was piling up all these games that I love. Imperial Settlers. Oh my God, I love that game. I just don't play anymore because Empires of the North came out. So, hey, sorry, Philip.
No. Empires of the Imperial Settlers, I got rid of as soon as I got 51st State because I like 50. Because I just think it's a better game.
I don't like the communal deck, and I don't like the theme at all. I'm not a Mad Max guy, but love the Imperial Settlers theme. Man.
Well, I own an Australian cattle dog, which is a Mad Max dog, and so therefore I love it.
Well, what I was saying is that I was getting this nice pile of games on my shelf at my office, ready to go to Sobo, our Southern Board Game Fest. We were going to have a big garage day sale through Anubis, our local sponsor, our local game store. They're going to get a little bit of money, but I'm happy with that because it's a big place for me to sell my games, right? And then COVID came, and now I'm stuck with this big shelf of games that I've been promising my wife we're not coming back to the house. Yeah. So now what do I do? I got to stay in the office.
Yeah. I like the way Philip said it, though, is if you feel like you've already gotten value, the thing that I find that people have problems with when they're traders is thinking that they have to win a trade. And when you have somebody like that who thinks, well, I know what this is worth, and I have to either get equal or fleece the other person, you're in trouble when you think of it that way.
First of all, I'm a former trader. Okay.
So never trade with somebody who plays fantasy football or fantasy baseball, because then they're going to always want, or somebody that thinks it's a used car deal, and I've got to beat the other person.
Yeah.
Right?
See, the thing that most people don't care. Okay, so this is where my mind always comes in, and this is going to be a little technical, so I apologize. I used to trade in, and I used to be involved in the capital markets of fixed income, which are bonds, right? And what do bonds put off every depending on the bond, either every month or every 6 months? Interest, right?
Oh, I thought it was gin and
tonics. No, my friend, we drink the best stuff. We drink the best stuff. Tequila. No,
shaken, not stirred. Don't forget.
Not James
vodka
Bond.
martini.
Mortgage-backed securities, corporate bonds, sovereign bonds, whatever. Right. But one of the things that you get as you own these bonds is interest. If you think of board games as like bonds, you've already been paid as you play them. Yes. So the value proposition becomes very different. And if I'm never going to play a game again, like Zombie Sides, I agree with you, Sean, by the way. I've already earned the interest that I want on it. And when I sell it, even though I'm selling it at a significant discount, which, and from what I'm seeing in, you can, when you go to BGG, there's the BGG market, so you can see where things sold in different conditions and different currencies. I've already received the benefit. Yeah. And so if I spent, perfect example, Tapestry, right? I spent $80 for Tapestry because I pre-ordered it through Stonemaier. I played it twice. I instantly realized it was not a game for me because of various things that I don't like about it. And then I said, all right, well, I've spent $80. I've played it now.
Mick, why are you doing that?
Why
are you doing that, Mick?
Yeah, sorry, Mick.
The trophy came out, and so did the shirt.
Yeah, I was even wearing your shirt, Mick.
You know,
Philip and I both wear green. So does Starla. We were looking at it.
I think Philip should show off that trophy one more time. Don't you think?
All right,
yes,
but just very quickly.
Oh, twist his arm.
Yeah, twist my arm. But very quickly, I played Tapestry twice. That's about 4 hours worth of play. I played it with a variety of people. I had a good time with the people that I was playing with, even though I didn't particularly like the game. I've already got my $80 worth. So when I've traded it, I'm not, so I traded it for about $50. But let me get the trophy, because that's the important.
Please, we haven't seen it in minutes.
Yeah. So somebody mentioned Johnny Pack. Hey, Johnny, what's up? Johnny Pack mentioned Board Game Company. Alex, Steve, you and I have traded with Alex many times, and every time I think, oh man, I'm giving up all these games, and I'm only getting 3 or 4 of these games, and you always tell me, but are you still having joy? And then when I get that package of those 3 or 4 games that I've been wanting to play for months and months and months,
right?
And I've given up games that I wasn't even playing at all,
right?
All of a sudden, I'm happy again.
And when you can you can do that as a big deal, though, too, BJ, you can maximize the shipping and get assistance for someone who is shipping a lot. Mm-hmm. You're really turning it over at a cost to you that is not that bad, and getting back something you want. That's a win.
So let's give him the solo. Phillip Millman got to show off that trophy. Here you go, Mick. Take a look. Look at this. Dave said, how can you pick that thing up? It's all 100% heavy metal, man.
You know what? Training. Lots and lots of training. There's some real guns here. Even though it looks like fat, there's some real guns here.
Welcome to the gun show. That's right. That's right. 3-time baseball champion Mick. He's here. He's got his trophy, and that is awesome. Mick, you missed it. We actually had a picture of Phillip in an Our Family Plays Games T-shirt.
And I'm still waiting for Mick and Starla to invite me to their show. I mean, clearly, the Nebraska. My Nebraska colleagues really should enjoy some of the wonderful stories that I tell about winning this trophy 3 times.
I'm sure we're going to get some pictures of that. All right.